Hey everybody! Welcome to another of the Games Tavern Happy Hour. I'm Mac, and again I'm joined by Rob over there.
Hi, I'm Rob. I'm here against my will.
Yeah, it's fair. Made some bad deals with Faye or something, and he gets to hang out with us, every now and then. So it's a fun
Yeah.
time. So as usual, I want to give a big shout out and thanks to Tabletop Audio. We used some of their music in the beginning opening credit scroll. I don't know that
Yep.
opening segment there. And they provide a lot of great stuff if you are doing any kind of Dungeons and Dragons roleplay experiences at the table or virtually. You can use their stuff for free, pipe it in, and give it to your friends. And I believe they have a Patreon. We're helping out there, so you guys should, if you use them, you should throw them a couple bucks and thank them for their help. Other than that, please check out our Discord. The conversations there are now in the chat. You can check out our Discord there, where we have a whole bunch of fun conversations happening pretty much around the clock about any variety of different things. I think this time there's been a lot of talk about whatever random things. We've had some interesting character builds concepts come up there, and I'm also trying to play around with camera views. So there we go. Much better. Okay, now you're centered. So we had a whole bunch of really fun RPG conversations in there. Right now, we're gearing up to run a learn to play campaign. We have our league is set for that, but there's always games going on, so feel free to check them out. But before we get too far down that rabbit hole, let's go into the news for the week. All right, and my news thing is one. Yes. So we've talked about WizKid releases in the past a bunch because they make a lot of good stuff. One of the pieces that we talked about previously was the Sapphire Dragon that they were talking about releasing for the 45th anniversary, based on the 45th anniversary art for the Sapphire Dragon that Dungeons and Dragons released around the New Year. Good news is it's finally live. Here we go. So you can actually go out and buy that right now. It's a pretty cool looking miniature. I'm always a big fan of the minis that end up using the non-traditional materials. So this one, the big draw there, besides being a big honking Sapphire Dragon, is it's all of a translucent plastic or resin. So it's a nice blue kind of thing. It's really cool. But have you looked at any of the other 45th edition stuff there, Rob? Or 45th
Personally, I
anniversary?
have not had time to take a look at all of that stuff. I am honestly super stoked that WizKids is going on. WizKids is going to be releasing a whole bunch of stuff for the 45th anniversary celebration. I can't emphasize this enough. I've used WizKid stuff since I was like 25 years old and old enough to actually afford nice things. So, I mean, once you're out of we're playing with whatever we have lying around, mom's beads or dad's coin collection as our figurines, you get into actually going out and buying figurines and really getting going with it. Just looking at that huge Sapphire Dragon, that makes me want to spend money, which I really can't do right now.
Yeah, it's shockingly affordable. It's
Right.
only $69.99, which is unheard of for something that large. WizKids has somehow managed to, cut out the prices for anything else. Because anybody else making that size miniature easily be $100, because it's a huge dragon.
It's a nice looking mold too.
Yeah, I kind of want to grab it just to get my hands on it and see exactly what they're doing with it. But I don't have a need for a Sapphire Dragon in my life at the moment.
Well, well, you never know.
I said at the moment. But yeah, they do a lot of really great stuff. One of the big things that they do is they're do the Nullzors miniatures, so the pre-primed stuff, which is really useful if you want to get in and just paint them a thing immediately. But one of their and this is a flawless segue, I think. One of the things that they do really well are their, I believe, the Legends of the Realm or Icons of the Realm series, which are their pre-paints.
Hang on a
And
second.
yeah,
Josh is weighing in to let us know that the price is in line with case incentive figures that come out with each blind box set of minis. So, for those of you that don't understand what all of that jargon means, Josh is just telling you that the $69.99 pricing is correct for the line of not necessarily Nullzers, but for the Wizards
yeah,
figures.
their Icon of the Realm stuff is all very
Yeah.
affordable. which ties nicely into the Legends of Barovia set that they have coming out. We've talked about the Curse of Strahd stuff a little bit in the past, namely that there's 2 editions out right now, or 2 pre-orders up right now. The Beetle and Grimm's, holy cow, this is going to be a fantastic thing, but it's $400.
I think it's technically 3.
What's the third one?
I mean, just the regular version.
Oh yeah, the regular book. I don't know if they're actually going to end up doing a re-release of that, because the smaller
it is out of print right now, right?
I don't know. I bought it before they started talking about doing all this, but we're talking around the issue there.
Yes.
About a month ago, 2 months ago, they released the diversity statement saying that they're going to be looking at some of the imagery and cultural people that they or cultures that they end up drawing inspiration from in their source books. One of the things that they mentioned was the Vishtani people in Curse of Strahd. Use some pretty negative stereotypes of the Romani. So they are taking concerted efforts to go forward and change that. They've hired a Romani culture, culture consultant. There we go. And they're helping to try and get rid of some of the bad, sort of negative stereotypes that they included. And that the big showpiece of that's getting released is Curse of Strahd Revamped, coming out in October, which is going to have, we talked about this on the show, it has a whole bunch of cool goodies for the special edition stuff. More importantly, though, on that front, it has all of the errata baked in, so you're not going to have, you don't have to have the piece of paper that says substitute this sentence for that sentence or this description for that description. It's just in there. So yes, so it is still available. I don't know if it's the same, if they've made those changes or not. I don't know which printing it is, but it's happened. But for the, how we got on the whole Curse of Strahd thing going on here, is they have announced Legend of Barovia, excuse me, Legend of Barovia miniatures. They're up for pre-order right now, but these are in the same high quality, quality that they have for, I'm not actually able to actually look at that link. Interesting.
Yeah, well, it's the shop link, that's why.
Oh, well, I will go ahead and delete that then. Sorry about that, guys. Delete.
Let me see if technical difficulties. Pull it up for me, Jamie.
So yeah, it's the Curse of Strahd. It includes Strahd and a bunch of other important characters from it. It's going to be 7 miniatures. I think it's coming in at about $35, which is good for pre-painted miniatures, and their pre-paints are of very high quality. There we go. So if you are going to be running Curse of Strahd, if you're just like collecting spooky vampire stuff, check it out. Like I said, I don't know if I announced this. I pre-ordered the Curse of Strahd Revamped. So I'm going to need to collect all of the random Curse of Strahd stuff I can get my hands on, because it's cool. I like spooky vampire time. Have you played Curse of Strahd there, Rob?
So I have not played the new version of Curse of Strahd.
So you played Ravenloft?
I've played the entire original Strahd campaign in Ravenloft. It was a adventure module for 3rd edition Ravenloft, if I remember correctly.
Okay.
So, yeah. Strahd is a new character. It's not really. They just don't have the copyright for the character they used originally.
Yeah, I'm excited to see Ravenloft and Barovia getting more love, because I think that's probably where they're going. They've talked about in the diversity statement, and this actually ties in nicely to the next thing. In the diversity statement, they talked about there being 2 products or projects in the works for Barovia that are using the stuff that their cultural consultant is from the Romani people is going to be helping them with. One of those was probably revamped.
Yeah, I love the fact that they're pulling in a Romani cultural consultant, only because
it's very easy to get that wrong.
So for the people that aren't aware, Romani are what used to be referred to as gypsies. They are a poor underclass in Europe that has been traditionally mistreated by basically every government. So the idea that they're going to do some sort of social justice for them in the Strahd books, and maybe a Ravenloft campaign setting, who knows, is nice to hear.
Yeah, it's them taking steps to try and not be just falling into the same trope thing and actually questioning why we're looking at things the way they are, and if that's offensive, maybe we can change it. Because gaming has 45 years of Dungeons and Dragons. What we thought was cool in 1975 is not. Some of that stuff could use a little bit of revision. But speaking of things that might be coming out for Ravenloft, there's a new Unearthed Arcana that dropped late last week. This one has 2 subclasses in it for Bard and Warlock. Any of those? I know you've looked at them. Are any of them speaking to you? Before we go into the hardcore details for everything. And
honestly, so there's some obvious lean here towards the the holiday seasons that are coming up. But the flip side of that is that the idea of a very, very powerful lich being a warlock's patron, to me, is just perfect.
Oh, I love that.
So on target. It is absolutely the kind of deal that somebody would enter into for power. And it's the kind of deal that someone would enter into for power knowing it was going to bite them.
Yeah, I would. Okay, so the Warlocks, since we're talking on that one. Basically, everyone's familiar with the Warlocks. You get yourself a patron, and they give you some really fun stuff. And the patron can be Cthulhu or a demon or something else. Who cares? But you can have Cthulhu or a demon. And it's basically some otherworldly eldritch being gives you in exchange for a lifetime or potential in perpetuity of servitude, gives you some of their power, and you get to use it to do exciting things. So, as we're going into the chat there, you can get an undead patron in the new Unearthed Arcana. The specific ones that they mention in the actual document include Strahd, and you're also able to get the one I'm really excited about is a Surarok, the guy from Tomb of Horrors and Tomb of Annihilation. It's like, I would totally do a necromantic warlock that is a Surarok's apprentice or whatever. That sounds really cool. Archfey, there we go. Thanks, Richard.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really cool idea.
Yeah. I don't think Lord Soth takes minions. It's not his jam. So as much as I would love to lean to the idea that this is a seasonal thing that's going to tie in with a return to Barovia, as you have been alluding to. Yeah. I also want to point out that these are the last. They're rounding out the spiritual focus or the spiritual linked UA subclasses, because barbarians got one. Thieves got one, or rogues got one. Like it's already been done for most of the other classes.
Yeah, that's I would agree with that. Everybody else, you're right, does have something which could actually tie into something down the line. If it's in UA right now, it's absolutely not coming out this year. It's not getting a final print anytime this year because they're usually run on a 3 or 4 month. The thing is done before it gets published or before it gets released. So whatever this is for is still theoretically in the works. Earliest we'd see would be.
But you announce in October, don't you?
Probably.
Yeah.
But if they're announcing a return to Ravenloft or return to Barovia, this and maybe some of the other tweaked spiritual UA subclasses could go really well with that.
Yeah.
This ties.
I agree 100%. Like I said, having looked over all of the subclasses, these were the last 2 classes to get rounded out, and it's such an easy layup for warlocks to say, oh yeah, a really powerful undead could be their patron, and it would provide them power and also be an obvious drawback.
Yeah, I think it's a really cool opportunity. The other one is the bard can ask to join the College of Spirits, where basically they have a Ouija board and start playing Madame Cleo.
It's not. It's more like where the barbarian ancestral spirits fight for the barbarian. The bard has spirits that are like
whispering in
spirit advisors.
Yeah, it's like, interesting.
Literally muses in some cases. So it's.
See, I read it as they were channeling them. Basically, they were wandering around as a medium, and they were like, "I need to find someone," and then they roll their bardic inspiration dice, and they get something. It's like, "What's the nearest spirit?" You grab them by the neck. Tell me something fun to hear, and then they can bestow buffs and powers on the battlefield. I think it's cool. It feels like a early 1900s seance with some of the stuff that the guy carries around, like a chalkboard, and I think one of them actually is like a Ouija board. Like it's silly stuff. But it's it's cool. I'm excited to see what they'll end up doing with it, if anything.
It's good to see them not taking themselves too seriously.
Yeah.
There was a period of time where D&D was super serious, and clearly it's no longer super serious, which is nice.
Yeah. So you can have a candle as your spellcasting focus. You can have a candle, a crystal ball, a talking board, so a Ouija board, a Taraka deck, so tarot deck, or a skull. Okay, yeah, this sounds like somebody that would be wandering around with, puts the crystal ball or whatever in the middle of the tent of table in dark room. Everyone holds hands, and the spirits come and talk to them. All right, that's a perfect fit for Barovia.
Works fine for bards who are clairvoyants anyway.
Yeah, so I think it'll be. I think it's cool, and this is our speculation alert here. I'm of the mindset that it is going to be something coming from tying into something Curse of Strahd. That could also just be me wish listing.
Ravenloft is an obvious choice for a expansion setting, and they seemed to be set on doing an expansion setting every year, maybe 2. So
that makes sense.
I guess we're due.
Well, Ravenloft's not really an expansion setting so much as more of the Forgotten Realms, because it's the weird locked off demiplane. It's not like Eberron or Wildmount.
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, Ravenloft is fun because it could be in whatever setting you want it to be.
Oh, absolutely.
Ravenloft is in this corner of the Forgotten Realms, but it's also in that corner of Greyhawk.
Yeah. So we have Arkline saying that Claromancy should be an option. He wants my D&D character to be the one rolling dice. Yeah, if I was running this, it's like totally. You could be, casting the bones as your, as your bard medium.
If you're playing a wizard, bro, and you want to use a D20 as your material focus for your divination spells, then go for it.
Yeah, that's that could work. Or what was the wheel and woe spell, whatever one that is.
Yeah. Right, yeah. Which is technically divination, just very weak divination.
Yeah, you'd have to be using, although you could use divination sticks and all that, which actually ties into something much later. So we'll get back to that.
All right, so moving along, D&D Beyond.
So D&D Beyond, there's not a whole lot of news coming out of there. They still have the free, if you're a subscriber, they still get the cool Dice of Potion, or Dice of Healing potion dice. I use them. They're really fun. They make cool sound effects and are kind of fun looking.
They do make really cool sound effects.
They do. But there's the Unearthed Arcana classes or subclasses we just discussed are now live. So if you have a DM that's going to let you dip into the Unearthed Arcana stuff, you can check that out. Otherwise, they gave us a little bit more hints on where they're going with D&D Beyond, and it all signs again still keep pointing to a virtual tabletop eventually, because they're talking about they're almost ready to put dice into the combat tracker. Something I'm excited about is the random encounters builder. And I haven't poked around with it yet because it's still work in progress. But I'm hoping that it'll be something where you can say, "Hey, I have this level party. There's this many people. Roll something, and it's like, oh, hey, check it out. There's 55 goblins. Have fun," or whatever is appropriate.
For those of you that have never heard of or used Fantasy Grounds, one of the things that Fantasy Grounds does provide is access to random encounter tables. So if you own the books, and by the way, you have to buy them again in Fantasy Grounds, which is of course the downside of Fantasy Grounds.
Yeah.
You can go ahead and basically use encounter tables for appropriate terrains based on which books you own. You'll get different kinds of monsters. I am not a huge random encounters fan. As a DM, it makes my job harder if I'm throwing a random encounter at the group because I haven't planned that set piece. And that just means that when players ask me stuff like, well, can we sneak around and check out their campsite before we attack them? I'm going to be like, no. It's not no, but it's like, yeah, go ahead and roll. All right, well, their campsite is pretty boring. It's just a fire with something roasting over it and 4 stumps that have been turned into stools. That's it. Whereas if I'm building a set piece, it's like, all right, if they're gonna fight in the monster camp, I know what it looks like. I know where the
Yeah.
overlook is. I got a whole bunch of stuff prepared for it. However, there are times when that random encounter is very, very useful. Like, for instance, if you're in a temple dungeon and you're like, well, crap, I had a set piece, but it's not going to work here. Let's just go ahead and roll an appropriate encounter for this environment.
Yeah, I do wandering monsters, although
Yeah.
I have them pre-prepped, and I don't put them in as randomly as you would, as the book says to. It's like, there's a slow part here. Oh, hey, check it out. There's a grue coming around the corner.
Well, I mean, if you're at the end of your day and you're down to your last set piece index card and the situation is just not presenting itself, there's nothing wrong with just pulling the combat stats out of it and just dropping it in there. Nothing at all is wrong with that.
Yeah,
So
that's so I try to have a lot of like prep work, so my random encounters aren't random. But we have Josh saying that what will be great for this is the D&D Beyond one, that the random encounter tables in the book / material that you've purchased in D&D Beyond, at the press of a button, it generates a random encounter for you.
that's basically how it works in Fantasy Grounds. I suspect that the D&D Beyond guys have looked at Fantasy Grounds quite a bit because I'm sure that Wizards of the Coast has noticed it generates quite a bit of money. But yeah, if you own the correct books, you can go ahead and use the encounter tables from those books.
Yeah, I'm confident that that's what they're going to be. That sounds correct. This all is very clearly pointing to them making eventually a virtual tabletop. Like, it will get there eventually, maybe by the end of the year. But I think it'll be a good time.
It takes a while.
Yeah, and they sort of slipping it in so it doesn't immediately sound like a competitor to Fantasy Grounds or Roll20 or something. A couple of other things that they have coming up is still on the phone app. It's progressively getting better. Unfortunately, right now you can't put in like descriptions and notes. So if you want to run like background stuff, you can't really look at it yet. And you also can't do digital dice rolling, but all of that they're saying is coming soon. So
honestly, I want to know who's running the Scrum for their mobile app because the stuff that they update first doesn't seem like priority stuff to me. To me, my opinion.
I think it might be the stuff they update first is the easy stuff to update.
Maybe.
Like, I think that's what they're doing, and they have other stuff jockeying for position. But I'm not sure. Otherwise, I think by the end of the month or mid-September, I expect the mobile app to be, up and running. But then again, you can also just use their website.
We've covered all of the bases, which means it's everybody's favorite time.
Oh, right. Yeah, we need to get like a scrolling, dramatic music here because it's the Kickstarter roundup.
Yes.
We haven't done this a whole lot in maybe using a random Scrum encounter table. That sounds like what they're doing there. Everybody rolls a percentile die. The lowest person has to go figure out how to get something into the app today. So yeah, we try and do this about once a month, where we go through and pull out Kickstarter projects that we're excited about. First up, last time we talked about a bunch of D&D centric kind of stuff. We're a little more all over the place this time. The first up, though, is the Ultimate Werewolf Extreme by Bazir Games. I'm sure a lot of you guys have played Werewolf in some capacity. Spend money time. Oh, right, that's right. I need to give you a link. Thank you, Nina.
Right.
Boom, there we go.
That link is kickstarter.com/discover/games.
Yeah. This one is, I'm sure a lot of you out there have played Werewolf. The monetized version is Ultimate Werewolf, and they also have One Night Werewolf, which is fun. I thoroughly enjoy it. What they have coming out now is Ultimate Werewolf Extreme. With the Macho Man Randy Savage voice there. It's the same game as standard, Werewolf, where you have multiple rounds, multiple nights. It's just, for anybody not out there, what Werewolf is, don't you?
So Werewolf is a drinking game. Fundamentally, you need to understand that that's where it comes from. It is a drinking game. It is meant to be played by drunk people.
It's a social deduction game, so yeah.
It is a game of social reason and logic, which requires everyone to be drunk. Otherwise, no one will figure it out. Not 100% true, but that's generally how it goes.
For those of you who don't know what the game is, though, it's like Mafia.
It's Mafia.
Yeah, it's everybody has, you have 8-10 people around a table or around a room. Everybody gets secretly assigned a role, and at its barest levels, you have 2 werewolves or 3 werewolves or 1 werewolf, depending on how many people you have. And
it is
everybody else
identical, yeah. identical to Mafia in every way that matters.
See, I've never played with Mafia.
Mm-hmm.
But it's that, and it's everybody closes their eyes. Werewolves wake up and decide to kill somebody or do whatever other nonsense they want to do. Then close their eyes, and everybody starts guessing randomly. And you can have roles that let you wake up in the middle of the night and do actions and stuff. But that's the core of the game: is villagers versus werewolves. You have to figure out who's a werewolf, and nobody knows what everybody else is. So they're coming out with a whole new version of that. I guess a version where it's you get 2 tier levels coming out for there. Yeah, it's actually much like push the button on Jackbox games.
Yeah.
So there's the Werewolf Ultimate Werewolf Extreme Collector's Edition for $69. Doesn't look like you get much of a discount by buying through the Kickstarter, but you do get some very sort of cool little extra knickknacks and exclusives. And that's going to be standard collector board game stuff, some trays, custom sleeves, whatever stretch goals they get. And then there's the Ultimate Werewolf Super Collector's Edition as opposed to the Extreme Collector's Edition, which is going to have even more cards. Some of them are going to be tarot sized. So the thing I'm most excited about are the elimination slap bracelets. So when you get eaten by a werewolf or, killed by the villagers, you get one of those like old school like slap bracelets you throw on your wrist and it will say eliminated or dead. I'm not sure. So it'll be fun.
Yeah.
And those are running again for $69 and $99. I'm probably going to get one of them because it's a fantastic party game, and it's easy to throw into my trunk and completely forget about until we have a whole bunch of drunk people around the table.
Yeah, which is the best way to have people around a table.
Yeah, tables are weird to handle when you're sober. So the next one, and this is something I'm really excited about this kind of project. When somebody with a cool skill decides to start pushing stuff out on Kickstarter and starts making cool things. So this one is, here we go, Rune Casters and Dice, or Rune Casters, Dice and Games for, or Dice and Runes for Games and Magic. And some really cool stuff. It's basically, if you click on the video that's on that link, it actually shows him making one of the rune sticks. That one looks like it's an iron one. But it's basically a small bar about that big and has a rune stamped in it. It's really cool. But he also makes dice, and you can get them individual or like a 4-pack, and something that he calls casters or casting sticks. And those are really cool little, about that big, and they have runes on each side, not unlike a D4 that some of like the weird limited edition stuff comes out with. These are really, really cool. You can get them either polished up in a fancy brass, or you can get them into patina. So they're handmade, made apparently by this one guy, and cool. And they make a great gift for your favorite happy hour host. So,
well, that's subtle, and hopefully will be paid attention to.
Yeah, everybody missed the last one that I did, so I'm hoping to get some kind of free crap out of this. But no, they do look cool. I'm probably going to order something because the casters are just too neat to not have, and I play a character that uses rune magic, so I need more rune crap. Finally, everybody knows how great, having when you can actually meet and play in person, having a physical dungeon to play on as opposed to just like 2D mats, how great that can actually bring the experience. Most dungeon masters have at least once looked at Dwarven Forge, and then decided not to make another mortgage payment make a mortgage payment as opposed to buying some of that. Then there's a couple other ones. There's the WizKids Warlock sceneries that just came out, and I really like those. I'm tempted to dig into those. And then there's this one that I found today. It's Drakenstone, Fantasy Architecture, Ruins and Terrains. And yes, it does spell fart. They dig into that hard in the project, so they know that that's what that does. It was intentional. You can get a shirt that says fart on it. And this is some really cool stuff. Basically, as opposed to building, both Dwarven Forge and Warlock have like full-sized walls. So if you have a 1x1 square, the walls are about 1.5 inches, 2 inches high. These are much smaller. These are only 1/8 to 1/4 of an inch high on the walls, so you know that there's a wall there, but it doesn't obscure line of sight for the actual players to see what's going on the table, which is pretty cool. And they're pretty affordable too. These are all made by hand. They actually have, again, a video of them making them. They're made with a gray resin that has some bits floating in it, so it actually does look like granite. I'll probably, if I get some, I'll probably at least throw a dry brush and maybe a wash over some of the stuff, just to add up the color a little bit more. But these look great out of the box if the representation on the movies or the film and the pictures are accurate, and it's pretty affordable. I was looking at it. You can make about a 4 or 5 room dungeon that's modular for about $150, which is that's a good price. That's really about the best that you could ask for in pretty much anything else there. What's
Yeah,
going on in the chat? Oh, right, and Arcline is banned. Jerk.
Yeah. So let me jump off there and just say that there are a couple of projects that I'm actually excited about.
Yeah.
So for those of you who don't know me, I'm a huge fan of the word traveling RPGs, which is funny because I hate random encounters and traveling in D&D, but an RPG that's designed around taking the journey and having skills that are designed for completing that journey in the sense of we're moving from point A to point B.
Makes sense.
Are fantastic fun. I played Ryutama a ton. There are several more that are great, but Ryutama is so far the best. Except for I am now looking at a game called Wanderhome that is currently on Kickstarter, and it looks like it's going to get made no problem. And anthropomorphic animals go on a journey across their world to have fun, which is it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but it's once again it's a game built around the challenges of going on a long journey as a group. You have to feed yourselves, you have to defend yourselves, not in the sense of you're fighting monsters randomly, but in the sense of you have to like set up your camp properly. You have to avoid a dark path, things like that.
Yeah, I could totally understand that. I've played games that when you read the back of the box descriptions, like, why on earth would I want to play this? But because it's a well-crafted game, it's like, yeah, this is an amazing experience. So I could very much understand the, while traveling in some games is garbage, if you do it right and you build a game about it, it could be awesome.
Yeah.
You got a link on that one? Because you didn't put it in the show notes.
Yeah, correct. So here's your link. Sorry, guys, you're going to spend money. I make apologies, but not
that much. Yeah,
I'm not going to apologize for that.
So we have Josh in the chat saying that there's some nice dungeon tile type stuff on Etsy, mainly laser cut etched wood. He has a favorite one which he bought a 3-mass ship. Yeah, there's a bunch of great stuff that's going on out there. The problem I have, and I really do like the laser cut wood and MDF. It is a good material, but there's a lot more work you need to do to them to make them tabletop ready. You need to sand or paint, and painting MDF and wood is less than ideal with some of the paints I have. So if we're just going for a one-click, which is kind of what I look at every now and then because I hate painting. But yeah, check out the MDF stuff too. There's a bunch of really great stuff out there.
And the other one that I am paying attention to is that one of my favorite artists, and he's one of my favorite artists because he designs starships for science fiction role-playing games, and he designs them on every level, from the overall design to deck plans that actually make sense. He has stopped doing this as much, but he used to provide stats in like several systems for these starships, so you could just bring them right into your games.
Oh, cool.
But apparently he's moved on to actually doing full-on modeling.
Cool.
And this is the one that he's doing right now. And I'm probably just going to throw money at him, to be honest with you.
Yeah, let's see. Oh, wow. Yeah, are they actually making a 3D models of that, or is it a 3D printable thing?
No, this is a 3D model.
Very cool. Yeah,
I mean,
good find.
it's a mini. So like don't go. Oh yeah, I'm gonna get a 12-inch. No, you're gonna get something that's gonna fit okay on a space battle map.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really cool though.
There have always been latrines in a spaceship. They're just called refreshers.
Or if you're on the Apollo, a hose.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I said, I'm super psyched about this, and I am hoping that he's still offering some of the older ones. So
Oh yeah, that'd be really cool. Uh,
Yeah.
People in the chat, if there are Kickstarter projects out there that you're excited about, you can't post the links, but throw the title in the chat and we'll look them up and chat about them because that's fun stuff. Everybody likes seeing how everyone else is spending their nerd bucks. Nerd
Yeah.
budget out the window. So
Budgets.
yeah. To round out the last couple bits of news here, unless there's any other Kickstarter stuff, we have two new RPGs. One of them is completely brand new, and it is probably the thing I'm most excited about ever. Is the Legend of Grayskull RPG has been announced. So you can put on your best Skeletor voice and try and thwart He-Man and his rascally crew. I don't think that's actually the focus, but that's how I'm going to play it.
Yeah.
So they have a. There's almost no details out right now. They've literally only dropped, dropped the announcement trailer. But it's legendofgrayskull.com. Check it out. Just bookmark it. It's going to be dropping sometime in 2021. But as it drops information, we'll let you know. Like I said, I'm excited about it. I enjoyed He-Man growing up, and Skeletor is just too much fun. He's the anti-hero I feel most attached to. Just buff body, skull for a face. Speaks to me. And let's see. Last one. We were talking about this before. You want to go ahead and take a point on the excitement train for Twilight?
So, Mac is a better human being than I am, and has actually had an opportunity to play this game. But it's been on my list because the setting, to any male history geek, is so interesting. So there is a new version of Twilight 2000 coming. It's going to get kickstarted end of this month, beginning of next month. And for those unfamiliar, Twilight 2000 is basically what if the Cold War had never. What if it had stayed cold and then,
Went
in
hot?
the year 2000 went hot?
Yeah. It was the Soviet Union doesn't fall, and instead everything goes to hell in a handbasket about 20 years ago.
Yep.
So this is that, and it's really cool. If you like that kind of alternate history kind of thing, and this was initially it was written in 1984, so it was a grim prediction of the future kind of thing. Now it's just fun, wacky alternate history along the lines of like Dust or what is it? The Warlord Games Conflict 1947, like that
So,
that kind of stuff.
I mean, fun, wacky alternate history in the sense that we can look at this and go, haha, those things could never have happened because this is how things actually happened, which of course is ridiculous because they absolutely could have gone
Oh
the
yeah, it
way
was
that
so
it's
close to
outlined.
happening.
Yeah.
But yeah,
So,
it's they're saying that this one's going to be more hex crawly than the past, which okay, that's cool. It makes surviving in a post World War III Europe.
right, gain and retain territory.
Yeah.
So Twilight 2000, basically the idea is that you play either, I hate the term, but freedom fighters, or you play
Remnants.
partisans,
Yeah.
or you play remnants of the major forces that are trying to survive in Europe blown up. So
Yeah, it's a really cool setting. I really enjoy it. So I'm looking forward for that Kickstarter drop because I'm probably going to get into that. Yeah, there was another piece of news you were talking about that you wanted to get going before some game was getting re-released that I don't remember the name of.
yeah, I couldn't find a link, so I'm gonna
Oh,
go ahead and wait until I can.
okay. So we'll keep you all sitting on the edge of your seats. But for
Yeah.
everybody in the chat, is there any news that we've missed or forgot or completely didn't see at all? Let us know in the chat. Otherwise, I think that'll do the news segment.
Yeah.
Feel free to chime in with what your favorite bit of news was, and we can talk about it a little more. I assume, oh, yeah. That you probably know a little bit more about that one there, Rob, about assuming it no longer ties into the Traveler future.
I don't even want to speculate, but I'm going to go ahead and say that the current Traveler is disconnected from other games. Whether that means they've completely disconnected the timelines, sort of a shrug. It doesn't really matter because the current events are so unimportant in Traveler because Traveler's current events are
thousands of years now, aren't they? Or are they
Yeah,
hundreds?
pants on head crazy, constant state of warfare sort of thing.
All right.
So
Yeah, I need to play some Traveler. I've heard good things about it. I know we've got a couple people that have been trying to get us into it. Well, maybe in the future when we're looking for a sci-fi game. But yeah, so we're going to take a quick break here, do a quick cast change, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes, guys. So everybody hang tight and yeah, let us know what your favorite bit of news was, and we'll be back in about 10 minutes. See you in a bit. Hey everybody, welcome back. I'm still Mac, but as you can see, that is no longer Rob, but that is now Josh.
Hello, everyone.
So, one of the well, actually, let's see. Did we miss anything in the chat before we dig into the meat and potatoes? What we're playing at here? Looks like there was a heist, betting. Excellent. All right, everyone had a good time. Oh, here we go. We got Dire Rabbit. Yeah, there's a Wormwood table up on Kickstarter right now, but I think everyone's good on that. We're going for the smaller projects.
Kickstarter is a dangerous place. It's a rabbit hole that you got to have the budget to really browse deeply.
Yeah, it can be very, very dangerous. But we'll go ahead and get started here. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are as a gamer, where you've been, and sort of what kind of experience you've had running games, because that's one of the big reasons why we wanted to drag you on.
So I started playing and DMing back in '95, and have started in kind of the World of Darkness, so, vampire, werewolf, that type of stuff, and pretty much anything World of Darkness put out, and a little bit of vampire LARP back in the day. But since 2015, pretty much D&D, 5th edition is where I've been playing and DMing.
Very cool. Yeah, that's. I know a lot of people sort of settled into D&D. It's just it's a comfortable system. So from 2015, I know that you've mentioned a couple times on the streams that you've done, or you're at least intimately familiar with Adventurers League. But that's because you were running Adventurers League for quite a while, right?
Yeah, I did a game from February 2016 through August 2018 with kind of a core group of players at one of the local area game stores that's no longer open. But the appeal for me was the organized play. The fact that as a player I could just show up at one of their stores and play, and you didn't need to have an established group of friends.
Yeah, that's always one of the big problems with having a long running campaign is getting everybody's schedules to actually sync up and have. We're adults. It's we don't get things done all the time, or we don't we can't dedicate one night of the week all the time. So it's.
I remember back in college, if one of the guys running a game got sick or transferred, bam, there goes your character and all the time you spent. So Adventures League, the characters are portable. You can go to another game store. It's basically the honor system, but it works.
Well, there are a couple things that make it harder to be dishonest about it, right? Where you have to do points by or standard array, right?
True, you don't roll for your stats. Like any game, it's got their house rules, which they put out every season.
Okay.
And but ultimately, it is the honor system. So you could lie about games played or treasure earned, but
I see what you're saying.
Then you're cheating at an imaginary game. So
yeah, that's not why we're here. So, how many campaigns did you run? Because Adventurers League usually has some kind of tie-in to like the hard books, right?
True, they kind of have two adventure paths. So you can run whatever hardcover adventure book comes out, and those are usually kind of a level 1 to 10 type deal.
Okay.
And then at the same time, they've got people producing modules from 2 to 4 hours, and they kind of tie into the hardcover, and you can run that entire adventure path kind of parallel to the book. So I did a little bit of both, but my favorite would be to run the hardcovers. I did Curse of Strahd, Storm King's Thunder, and then Tomb of Annihilation with the same group of people.
Oh, that's really cool. Yeah, I've all of those sound like one that I would like to jump in on and play. So maybe one day we'll have to get you behind the DM screen for the Games Tavern.
I was actually one of the first times I ran people from basically level 1 up to 15.
Really?
Actually, it was quite the run. And when we got to the level 15, level 16, that's when things kind of started to fall apart, because there's so little hardcover content for that level.
Yeah, I could see that. I can really only think of like the Tales from the Yawning Portals, really the only thing I can think of that has anything tacked on for that light. And even then, that's just modules.
Well, what I was doing, which was allowed at the time, was to basically weave together chapters from the various hardcovers. So I was choosing the more difficult encounters, but in a cohesive narrative, so it made sense. And the fifth edition books are written with callbacks to each other.
Yeah. Yeah, I've
So,
been reading into a lot of those now, just because I had a lot of time on my hands, and they're pretty interestingly well written. I haven't started digging into Storm King's Thunder though, and I've heard some interesting stuff in there.
you know,
Oh, go ahead.
oh yeah, I was going to say with Storm King's Thunder, it kind of foreshadows some of the stuff in Tomb of Annihilation, and it's got a couple nice adventure jump off points into Out of the Abyss as well.
Fun. Okay, that's actually really cool. So, with the Adventurers League setup, you mainly played with just like your one core group, or did you actually have a whole lot of comers and goers? Walk-ins. There we go. People that came in just wanted to play, or
Well, it probably doesn't come as a surprise, but finding a DM is very difficult. So, yeah, when I was running the table that consisted of the hardcovers, it was basically 6 or 7 players all the time. So every now and then we'd have a walk-in join, but that one was pretty steady. But then for a while I was running the adventure modules they would release monthly at some of the other stores, and those were just pickup games.
Okay. Was there one? Did you prefer one style or the other?
I definitely personally enjoyed the hardcover because you have all the material ahead of time, so you can read through it and kind of
foreshadow and plot.
Exactly. Whereas the adventure modules, they're releasing those on like a monthly basis throughout the 6, 9, 12 months that consist of a season. So yeah, you can't plan ahead that much. However, what's nice about the modules is they're self-contained. They have all the stats for the creatures you want. They have a little chart that says how long the different sections should take. So in theory, with 30 minutes prep, you could read through one of those and just dive into it.
Okay, that's actually really cool. And you've mentioned, I believe in the chat a couple times, that a lot of this stuff is available on DM's Guild.
Correct. They, I think it was season 4, so 2016, they launched that and started putting all the modules on there. Initially, the modules came out through the local game stores and were free.
Yeah.
And then they re-released everything on there.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's really cool. I ran a little. It wasn't Adventurers League. I think this got to have been 2012 when I was up in New Jersey, and a local game store had just opened up, and they're like, "Hey, we're trying to get something going." So I was just doing random things that I pulled together, and it didn't go well at all. I think we probably did a dozen sessions or so of just random walk-ins and pickups, and it was like 90% homebrew. It was a garbage campaign. It was also 4th edition, so.
There were some precursors though. You had Living Greyhawk and
Okay.
I forget the acronym for the other one. It was like RPGA, but an organized play campaign. Personally, I love it because of the walk-in nature and the portability of the characters.
Yeah, it sounds like it'd be a really cool. As soon as we can go out and do this kind of stuff again, I wouldn't mind trying to do that. Just go out and meet new players, meet new DMs, see other play styles, because it is very much an art on how every DM does something.
Well, besides the game store, there was also convention play, which is kind of a separate beast unto its own.
Yeah.
And I had DM'd at 1 or 2 of the local area conventions.
Okay.
And those are kind of all about time. Like you got to really watch the clock because you can't go over.
Yeah, you have the 2 hours and 45 minutes, and if you miss that, well, sorry, we need the table. Doesn't matter if you're on a cliffhanger or you're resolved.
Pretty much. So that's probably the biggest thing that I've picked up. Time management, being able to see, okay, hey, we're halfway through the session. We haven't had a combat yet. We wanted to get that in, and we got to wrap this all up before the store closes at 8:00.
Yeah, that's you've played a couple of my games. Time management is definitely not my strong suit right now. I'm working on it, but yeah, it's pacing everything coming out in the game to get it done in the 3 hours for streaming is it's a challenge. So much respect for anybody who can make that happen.
Well, the Adventurers League is not kind of unchanging. Like every season, they tweak the rules a little bit. I haven't played in the latest 2 seasons. But
Okay.
if you were to look at a module from each of the seasons, the format changes slightly, and can kind of give you a little bit of insight into different ways you could prep for a game.
Yep. Excuse me, just inhaled water. Yeah, that's. I've been meaning to actually start digging into those and just build a library of things that we can run for a one-shot kind of thing. And it sounds like the Adventurers League modules are a great way to do that.
Yeah, that would be my recommendation. Anyone who hasn't run before and who doesn't want to do Lost Mines of Phandelver, one of those modules is probably a good one-stop shop.
Yeah, I can see that making a lot of sense. Now, were there any other challenges for running in a, whether it's a pickup game or it was, your time with running the hardbacks or the more set group? What kind of challenges were you experiencing in the Adventurers League setting?
The Adventures League, let's see. I went through a lot of paper and ink because I was not a fan of maybe the battle map and just kind of sketching that out. I like to use the maps in the books or in the modules. So I bought myself a big format printer so I could do 11 by 17.
Oh, wow.
And I would always do 4 11 by 17s taped together for one map.
Okay, yeah, that is hardcore.
That way everything printed off to scale, 1-inch squares. Yeah. And I mean, the players seem to love it. And certain of the books, like Tomb of Annihilation, really lended themselves well because either the maps got released free through Wizards of the Coast, or the artists who did the maps would sell them on their site, and you could just buy a high-res pack of them really cheap.
Yeah, that's. I picked up a couple stuff for a campaign I'm running off of DM's Guild, and the maps they're fantastic stuff. For running in person, though, I typically end up just buying one of the fold-out maps. I know Paizo made a lot of them. That's like, hey, this looks close enough. It's a castle. It's not the right castle, but whatever. It's there. It's done.
Yeah, I do keep in stock a couple of the generic Paizo flip mats that just have water or grass.
Yeah.
And then I have one of those really big maps that is hex on one side, grid on the other.
Oh, yeah.
I forget who makes it, but it's a very large size battle map.
Yeah, I know the one you're talking about. That's because hexes I thought was a weird mix, but that's cool.
But that's definitely a tool of the trade. I would never DM without one of those.
Yeah, I'm hoping for one day to be able to have the budget to buy one of those tables with the fancy TV that's inset and has the resin or the the Lexan over it. Then I don't have to worry about that ever again. I just pull up stuff onto my TV there, and I have a digital map, and it's perfect.
Until everything goes holographic, and then you're screwed.
Again, yeah, I just keep getting technology. So you were saying that I think we touched on this, but you were saying which one of your favorite AL campaigns were you doing?
It's a real toss-up between Storm King's Thunder and Tomb of Annihilation. Both have their charms, but in a pinch, I'd go Storm King's Thunder.
Okay. Why? Because I've heard good things and bad things about both of them. And just picking someone's brain who has strong opinions feels worthwhile.
So Storm King's Thunder, the overarching story, it's not really spoiling anything. I think it's on the book. The ordning that controls the giants gets shattered, so then chaos erupts across the Sword Coast, and the player characters are asked to help.
Okay.
And what draws me into it is it really delves into the whole nature of the giants, and I really like the floating giant castles and the monsters they're fighting.
All right, cool. That's as good a reason to like any setting.
And it didn't hurt that WizKid put out some great giant minis.
Oh my gosh, yeah, those are.
And they're actually scaled correctly, because if you look at the D&D minis that they were doing in the early 2000s, I have a storm giant from that time, and it's extremely tiny.
Yeah, that was. I've seen those. I was playing in this Pathfinder campaign, probably 2 or 3 years ago, and the DM ended up using the frost giants from the WizKids stuff because they're just fantastic stuff, and they're actual giant size. So it was one time we're like, all right, you walk in and you get ambushed by a frost giant. He's like, wait, did I say and he pulls out a dozen of them in a giant, like, 3x3 box, and it just starts slamming on the table. It's like, oh.
Yeah, I've got about a dozen of just the frost giants. I really stocked up when they were flooding the market back then, so the top of my bookshelf is just lined with giants, and I'm just waiting for the next opportunity to roll them all out.
Fair. Yeah, that's sounds like a good time. All right, so let's shift gears a little bit here. Another thing that anybody who's been watching any of the Games Tavern stuff, the streams that you've been on, knows you have a knack for making really unique and interesting characters. I don't. This is a sort of a blind spot of mine, is I tend to go with, hey, what's the fastest thing I can do to get a character on the table and fits within the grand overarching, it's a trope kind of, just make him slightly different and just push him out the door. You very clearly put some thought and effort into making your characters interesting. Like Gregor is wild.
Yeah, the Obsidian Chef. Well, that was all based on the Discord back and forth.
Yeah.
It really sparked some ideas like, hey, what can you do with the healer feat or inspiring leader, and everything through the lens of being a chef.
Yeah.
And some of that inspiration I realize now probably came from an anime I was watching on, I believe, Netflix, where they ride an airship and they hunt dragons, and they're all about dragon steaks and making food, and they're always hungry, which seems to be a trope in many animes. But that was a little bit. But he's part Gordon Ramsay, part the Mandalorian, all chef. All
chef. Yeah, that's the key one. So when you get set with the task of you're opening up or you're joining into a new campaign or a one shot or a limited thing, what is your sort of your process there? I know a lot of people have sort of a stable of characters that they're just going to try and fit into whatever it is they have going on. Or are you more of a, hey, I have this project that I'm coming up or this game I'm going to be playing in. What can I make that'll fit that? What's your mindset for making a new?
I guess I've learned never to get my mind set on any one concept, because the DM will probably hate it. So I'm always asking, hey, what does the campaign need? Where's the campaign taking place? And kind of narrow it down. I like to work with some restrictions in place, because if I have every book to choose from, I will just spend weeks creating a character that I never end up actually playing.
Yeah, analysis paralysis is a huge problem there. If I have I'm making a random character, it's like, all right, I want to make this race or this class or maybe even this background, and I go from there and just hammer it together. But yeah, that's restrictions are good.
But yeah, for me, I'll choose some concept and then build around that. So in this case, we were talking in Discord about making a chef character, and there was a number of ways that we could have went, and ultimately I just struck upon Bard, because they can throw insults and inspiration, but it could have went a couple of different ways.
Yeah. Well, initially when I was putting that one out, because I was like, hey, I want to use the chef class, kill off Adgern so I can go ahead and make the chef halfling, I think was what it was. It's like, yeah, that I thought that would have been cool, but you took that that little kernel and made it something insane and wild and awesome and far more in depth than my it's a halfling.
I just like digging into the printed 5e material and looking at all the little nuggets. So like the backgrounds, each background normally has suggested personality and flaws that you could choose.
Yeah. And
when I'm making a character, I'll grab onto one of those and incorporate that into the character.
Okay. Do you ever use the This Is Your Life in Xanathar's Guide?
Yes, I do, and that is a great resource for fleshing something out. But I personally like to have a very light background starting off, and might go towards the This Is Your Life chart a couple sessions in, so as to be able to integrate with the party and not paint myself into any corners.
Yeah, that's I fully agree on that front. I like having minimal amount of set in stone background. Just because it makes it easier to mesh with the party, and you don't really know a character until you've spent a couple days in their boots and being like, oh, this is what this guy thinks. Yeah, that's really cool. So, do you have any background or any characters in your stable that you're sitting on for the next time, or is this just you make them as for each project?
Well, in Adventures League, I had modeled all my characters after the first one I made, which was a wizard named Stormwind. And Stormwind is one of the surnames from the book.
Okay.
I'm a big fan of using the suggested
So easy.
name. Exactly. So Grigor Marsk is one of the combos you can choose for one of the human races.
Yeah, and I love that. That's most of my characters are built off of those, or have one or the other is picked, and just because it gets out there and it's good.
But for a next character, I really want to explore the Wizard Illusionist again.
Ooh, yeah. The illusion is an interesting school. I haven't done a whole lot of playing around with it. I've just went straight into invocation, but that and like necromancy, I think you can have a lot of really fun stuff going on with.
Yeah, and with the Illusionist, it really does depend on the DM, because it's not like you have +5 to damage. It really depends on the adjudication of your DM.
Yeah.
So it would depend on who's running the game, because if you want to talk about warping reality and stuff, the Illusionist can get crazy once they hit level 6+.
Yeah, you definitely need a DM who's willing to say yes to, or not quite, but we'll do this other thing, willing to work with you on that front, because when you start warping reality or expecting the NPCs to fall for various illusions, it's like you do have to have a little bit of DM buy-in on that.
But that's what I'm thinking about right now. But if a new campaign opened up in a week, it could be something completely different.
Sure.
And I do like just kind of grabbing a class and then going down the rabbit hole on it, seeing what's in the books about it.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, that does tie into the next thing I wanted to add. Do you prioritize a sort of you're building your illusionist wizard? Do you have your spell book that you want to have as you get each 2 levels spell, or each spell every time you level up, or are you just sort of like, all right, we'll see where this goes?
Definitely not. I mean, whenever I build a character, I immediately think, okay, if I got to level 20, I would want to be 18 levels of wizard and 2 of warlock, or all wizard. But no campaign really ever gets to level 20, so I want to be able to enjoy it level by level.
Sure.
So I'll look ahead just to make sure I'm not shooting myself in the foot with a crossbow. So the current Velkin Weave character is now level 6. It's 4 levels of rogue, 2 levels of warlock, and yes, I'll probably go warlock 4. So 2 more levels, but beyond that, not a clue.
Yeah. How speaking of Quentin, where did that character concept come out of? That's because it is an interesting rogue that you built up.
So I wanted to play something half elfish with a like a dark past, and opted to go somebody who had been resurrected in his background. And as I was kind of playing with the concept, I forget which of the D&D Splat books there is, but it talks about how the Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. It talks about how the elves have the split with the dark elves, and it all goes back to their origins. Anyways, I wanted to play a character who had a dark cultish family who was into resurrection, or correction, reincarnation rather.
Interesting. Okay, see, I did not know that about Quentin, so I'll have to watch out for that a little bit more now when you guys come back next week.
Yes, not tomorrow. Tomorrow we will be finishing up the Barber of Silvery Moon.
I'm so excited to see what's actually cutting people's hair there, because that frog monster was weird, or frog demon.
Oh yeah, that was amazing.
So with with some of the we've touched on inspiration a little bit there. There's been a couple things that you've in the past that you keep recommending that we check out for when it comes up in the chat about where inspiration or questions about tropes and stuff like that. I'm just teeing you up on that one. How do you use that?
The site that you're referring to is tvtropes.org, and whether it is television, a book, some movie that you've seen, there are certain things that will pop up in there, like the all-knowing villain who is always one step ahead of the good guy. If you were to look that up on there, it would reference all the different times that it has appeared, as well as variations on the theme. And when I'm looking at, tweaking a scene in a hardcover or the motivation for a bad guy, I will sometimes refer to that and look to see, do I want to play to a trope, or do I want to
Subvert it.
choose one of the alternate ones, subvert it? Yeah.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm a big fan of tropes on the tabletop when I'm, either RPGs on the tabletop or even actual out LARPing, just because it's storytelling shorthand, and I'm not going to be I don't have time to accurately describe a castle in detail to tell you exactly every single small minutia that you would see just by looking at it. And being able to lean into some tropes and be like, oh, it has the heavily barred doors, and there's cobwebs in the in the corners, and there's unlit lantern sconces. Everyone then starts picturing Dracula's castle. We can go from there. I set out a couple things, and everyone picks on the trope and runs with it. So I really like going to sites like that to tell stories.
And it also does a good job at citing its sources. So then you can go and seek them out and incorporate them into your lexicon of knowledge.
Yeah, that's kind of a key way to do that. I think is you want to know more about this cultural zeitgeist of RPGs and fantasy that we all play around in.
But I find myself kind of taking notes all day long. Like I'll always have a little piece of scrap paper with me, and when an idea comes up, I'll just jot down a couple words and look it up later when I get home. And if I am actively running a campaign, I kind of do the same thing. Like throughout the week leading up to it, I'll get some ideas, and 2 or 3 days before, I'll actually kind of solidify those down into the scenes that I want to have appear or present to the characters to make a choice on.
Okay. Are you running a campaign right now?
I'm not. It's been over a year now, but
oh, wow.
I'm kind of getting the itch to run something, and I'm not sure whether I want it to be 5th edition D&D or going old school and going back to
White Box.
White Wolf's Aberrant, the late 90s dark superhero.
I'm not familiar with this one. Tell me more.
It's amazing. So White Wolf was all about the D10 for their system.
Yeah.
And each dice would have a set difficulty, so it works on that kind of system. But basically, the concept is it's like 1999. The space station explodes, sending nuclear material all across the world, and that sparks these novas who awaken with superpowers. And it's set in the future at that point, which is like 2008. So I kind of want to journey into the past and take a look and see what their predictions were for the state of the world we're in now, and just kind of project forward, because it was pretty dark. It was not like a Marvel MCU type movie.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like that would be a. That sounds more like The Boys almost, where it's just like, oh.
Definitely, this would have predated The Boys too, which I think came out in the mid to early 2000s.
Yeah.
But in there, the superpowers could actually warp the physical form, causing aberrations. So you get people who looked like the Hulk. Not everyone was a Spider-Man type person.
Okay. Yeah, that actually sounds a lot like for the revision or the predictions from the past. It actually ties in nicely to what we were talking about previously with the Twilight 2000. We stumbled upon a theme somehow for the evening. Well, that sounds really cool. What did you like about that system?
I was one of the first games that I played was the I forget if it was FASA. It was Marvel's Face Rip system, the fighting agility, strength, endurance. I forget what the rest of the acronym was, but it was a really easy percentile system for Marvel superheroes.
Oh, cool.
So this would have been late 80s, early 90s, I think.
Oh,
basically,
wow.
You needed one book, and it had all the powers, and on the back it had the chart. So when you rolled your D100, you'd see, based on the level of your power or skill, if you succeeded.
Oh.
It was elegant. Like
Yeah.
so.
I like systems that are that simple.
So yeah, you basically needed like 2 dice. It was one of my all-time favorites. Anyways, that's well out of print, and I was looking around and already versed in White Wolf, Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf the Apocalypse, and they released that. It was actually, I think it was the second in their like kind of sci-fi superhero trilogy, because before that they had one. I think it was initially it was Aeon, and they had to rename it to Trinity, I believe.
Okay.
And that's kind of their space psionics one.
Gotcha. Okay. I think I've only played 1 or 2 games of Vampire the Masquerade, but I've heard interesting things about it. I know a couple people who did Vampire the Masquerade LARPs and had nothing but fantastic stories about what they would do with those. So I've
Some crazy stuff out there, but the books themselves are good. I haven't looked at any of the new stuff that came out about 5 years ago.
Okay.
Because I think White Wolf sold it off, somebody else picked it up, so there's a current edition out there.
Interesting. Have you said you haven't looked at the new edition yet, but would you be willing to run any of the old Masquerade stuff or old Vampire stuff?
Oh, in a heartbeat. That stuff is kind of burned into my memory. At one point, I think I owned every one of the, several hundred books that they had released through the end of like 2005. So It was crazy the amount of knowledge that I still have of that system and setting.
Yeah, that
Very
sounds.
fond memories.
It sounds like a really interesting setting. I've just never managed to break into it. But that's really cool. So, what was the last game the last campaign you were running? You said it was about a year ago when you ended.
It was actually kind of a precursor to Whiskey, Magic, and Destruction.
Oh.
Ren Drakewood was in it, and it was kind of play testing out kind of some of the stuff that we're doing now.
Oh, very fun.
But it was set in Waterdeep using that book, which is actually one of my least favorite.
Which one? The Dragon Heist or
Dragon Heist?
Okay.
Yes.
Because I keep hoping Dungeon of the Mad Mage is awesome, because that's on my do not touch that list, because I want to play Dungeon of the Mad Mage so bad.
That's on my list as well, and I have not gotten a chance to play it, but I've only heard good things about it.
I mean, it's a dungeon crawl. Like, hey, how bad can it be?
True.
Let's okay. We'll find a DM and make that happen. Corey, I'm looking at you. Well, I'm looking at my camera actually. But.
I hear that it could actually be sliced and diced into 1 or 2 shots pretty easily, because each of the levels in there is its kind of own self-contained dungeon.
Yeah, I had heard that. Haven't done too much spoiler stuff on it, but I think it's really cool. I'm hoping that it actually works out for, or I'm hoping I maybe would actually like sneak into a game, even if it's broken up like that, because it could be a lot of fun.
Oh yeah, I mean, you could easily have a hole in the ground lead to any of those, and
yeah, and it doesn't have to be underneath the. Oh, hey, Corey's saying that he does have the book and he has read some of it already. So, Corey.
All right, so he volunteered then. That's what I'm
hearing. Yeah. So, are there any of the official adventures that you haven't run or you haven't played in that you would actually be interested in diving into, or you would play again because they're, that great, or you enjoyed them that much?
I would do Curse of Strahd anytime, and I actually have not played Storm King's Thunder.
Okay.
And even when I ran it, I didn't run all of the content due to the way the dungeons and the bosses are set out.
Sure.
I've kind of seen that as like something they're incorporating into the books. Like a successful run through doesn't mean that you complete every single chapter.
Oh no, they're RPGs. There's a whole bunch of ways you can snake your way through these dungeons.
They'll have the flow chart in the beginning and kind of a suggested path.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of that, and it's actually a point that I try to drive home with. We had our initial Learn to Play game yesterday. Unfortunately, we didn't get to rolling dice. We had some technical difficulties, so we couldn't get everybody in. But a question that someone was asking me is like, "Hey, if someone else were to play Lost Mines of Phandelver, it wouldn't be the same thing that you have." It's like, no, it absolutely wouldn't, because every party brings something new to it, and they're going to solve the problem slightly different ways and cause new problems down the road. So the game is relatively high replayability value for any of the books.
Speaking of Lost Mines, when you were talking about the starting that system for the new players.
Yeah.
There's the chapter in the back of the Elemental Evil, Princes of the Apocalypse,
Okay.
and that is excellent starting material as well.
I'll have to check that out. That's one of the books I don't have.
That's not bad. That was actually kind of some of the first stuff I played in 5th edition.
Okay, Princes of the Apocalypse. That's where the gods are getting together trying to end the world or something, right?
Just another elemental cult trying to bring up earth, air, fire, and water. Good stuff. And the Adventures League modules that kind of run parallel are some of the best.
Okay, yeah, that sounds interesting. I do like source books where you can actually, pull from them and use them in, not just that one setting.
Well, everything kind of takes place on the Sword Coast-ish, so it's all kind of crammed together, and the timelines of the books are purposely vague so that, it's a really bad decade or a couple of years for...
It's a bad week. It's just,
No, I mean, while you've got the giants running amok, you've got the elemental cults trying to raise up their folks, and then the tyranny of dragons and the dragon cultists. It's good time for an adventurer.
Have you run Tyranny of Dragons?
I've run chapters from it,
okay.
And there are some excellent chapters. Floating Ice Castle,
ooh.
Yes, and Rise of Tiamat, the second kind of half of the... I've run one or two chapters from that tied into Storm King's Thunder as well.
Nice. Yeah, that was the first limited or alt art that I bought, and maybe decided I need to buy alt art for all the other books. So if anybody is looking for a collection of books that I need to swap out for other books, let me know.
Well, they did reprint those first two. I forget what they called it. Maybe just Rise of Tiamat.
Yeah,
last fall, I believe.
You can buy both of those individual, but I just went with the fancy book because it's fancy.
And it also incorporated all of the errata.
Yeah, that's a big deal. With if I can, not have to have extra loose pages in a book, I prefer doing that. Which is one of the reasons I'm looking forward to Curse of Strahd revamped, because it has all the errata in it. Plus,
sadly, I cannot get excited for it because I'm caught up on this hardcover thing. One day I'll get over it.
Oh, I can totally feel that. Hardcovers are really nice to have. But it's going to sit on a shelf and hang out with Pierre the Skeleton up there. So I think it'll go
nice.
well. Yeah. Are there any of the Dungeons and Dragons releases that are coming up that you're particularly interested in? I think Icewind Dale is the only one that we know is coming out that's entirely new. But there's got to be some cool stuff that has been teased or otherwise hinted at. Where do you think they're going, and what are you looking forward to or hoping they're going to make? Wish list it up for us.
So something with the planes or Starjammer. That seems too far to hope, though.
Okay.
But some type of setting that would allow you to branch out into the other realms or other worlds more easily.
Okay, yeah, I think that would be an interesting way to actually tie the stuff together, because if you're running in Waterdeep right now, all right, well, being able to get to Eberron there's no clear-cut way to make that happen for your characters, and being able to jump between the realms, I think, would actually be really interesting.
But I have noticed in the last couple hardcovers they've had, the Faerun specific ones, they've had call-outs to kind of Spelljammer ships and stuff.
Yeah.
So I would love to see something like that, or whatever their current take is.
I'm hoping they're not just weird Easter eggs and they're actually some kind of foreshadowing, because as much as I'm not a huge fan of Spelljammers, they are such a big part of the lore and the world that they've built, that having something focused on them feels kind of necessary. Like Dark Sun. I don't particularly enjoy the Dark Sun setting myself, but it's very popular. I could see that being a book sometime in the future, just to throw the fans a bone.
I mean, if I want a grimdark setting, I'll look outside the window. I want some heroics,
Fair enough. Well, here we go. Vash is saying that you could, if you don't want the Curse of Strahd revamped, you could just buy the Beetle and Grim one for the hardcover. So,
I've got issues with that ever since I think they launched with the Waterdeep Dragon Heist. Was their first one?
Either that or Baldur's Gate.
It was the Waterdeep one, and I have not bought any of those and don't plan on it.
Really?
Well, it's just too expensive. $500.
I think they're 4 to $500. They are a pricey thing.
And if you parse out the various components, you can get it for less. They do have some exclusive stuff in there, although they do have. I think Beetle and Grimm, their website has the store where you can buy some of the exclusive stuff. So
Really?
I think they had included some of the coins from Waterdeep. You know how they have the very distinct coins.
Oh yeah. The moons and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, any of the stuff that they upsell in their box sets, I think you can get that on their website.
All right, I did not know that. I always thought that all the other stuff you got was like a bespoke, nice, high quality version of the cheap paper mat you can find. But if that's not the case, that's disappointing.
I mean, I'm sure they put love and care into it, but love and care is a price in my world, and it's
fair.
not $500.
Yeah, I could see if I thought I was gonna be able to get like a hardcore group together and we were gonna run through Strahd, I could see a Beetle and Grimm kind of the $300 to $400 being a worthwhile thing for that. And
I agree.
You have your gaming group you played together for a decade. I could see that.
If I had a group and we were going to be like, hey, let's play this hardcover for the next 6 or 12 months, maybe we go in and split the cost.
Yeah, I could see that, or even just
because if you break that down over 12 months or 52 weeks, it's not that bad. $10 a week.
Yeah, $10 a play session, and you're fine.
Yeah.
Well, excellent. Let's see. I think we've run out of questions there, but here we go. Yes, Splat books. No, we already covered that. Cool. So, if anybody else out there has any questions for Josh, please throw them in the chat. Otherwise, we're just going to keep chatting about things we're excited about or not excited about, as the case may be. And any other things that come up about Josh's own personal backstory for building characters and all of that. So
using the copious amount of time that I have these days, I do want to get caught up. I've bought a couple of the D&D books, but have not given them their proper due.
Okay. What's your newest one that you bought?
I buy them all, but that doesn't mean that I read them all.
That's fine.
So I want to go back and read the Eberron one and the Magic, the Gathering one.
Ravnica? Guildmaster's Guide?
Yeah. I don't know that I even cracked open the book on that, kind of immediately dismissing it. But in listening to some people talk about it and just the setting of it, I think it could be a really good
palate cleanser.
Yes, and not the Sword Coast. I think I get that a lot from people. How about something not the Sword Coast?
Yeah, I get that. I hear that a lot. But I'm still a fan of traditional sword and boards. Sword and sorcery. I like that. I think that's cool stuff. But I can see how people would be less enthused about it from time to time, and get bored of it if they've been doing this all time every time. So I could totally see that that mindset. So I'm interested to see what comes out of that.
Have you run across any third-party rule supplements for kind of like Adventure Guild building? Like I've seen some stuff for if you want to make a really nice tavern, all the alternate rules that you want.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Kind of keeping my eye out for like building a keep, that type of stuff.
I think that there might be something in the old school, the original Adventures Reincarnated, because there's a bunch of extra rules in those things, and there's a lot of stuff in there for like how to build a base. I don't know if there's anything for like building a tavern. Oh, here we go. We have Reed chiming in the chat.
Yeah, strongholds and followers. I believe I did look at that.
Taverns and tap rooms. I'm a fan of that one. Let's make that happen. What's your end game there that you're working to play with?
See, that's the thing. Like I love the little minutia like that, but if you don't have a DM who wants to be bothered in between sessions with questions on that, then it probably works better in a home game or a non-live stream game.
Yeah, I could see it being on top of all the other stuff just to get the cameras going. I could see that being a burdensome kind of. Plus, being able to describe your tavern on this camera, I could see that being or
Yeah.
keeping the, or maybe that'd be a way to push it out on social media or Patreon or something.
Although I think the Obsidian Chef could use a tavern.
I'd be down for that. Yeah, that sounds absolutely worthwhile. Yeah, so tomorrow should be fun. If anybody out there didn't see last week's, we're both the two of us and a couple other people from the cast and crew are running through Corey's Barber of Silvery Moon, and I'm excited to see where this is going.
And that was one of the free modules Wizards released, was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, I think he was saying he got it in Dragon Magazine.
Yeah. I've run one of the modules they presented. I think it was in 2016. They had a little encounter on kind of Halloween inspired on incorporating some of the Curse of Strahd stuff into your campaign when the mists show up.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I need to get better at reading Dragon Magazine, or Dragon Plus now. Just because there's a lot of really cool content in there, and I'm a sucker for grabbing free modules. Because
free maps as well. They normally
yeah,
have some stuff in there.
and now that most of my stuff I'm running is on a virtual tabletop of some flavor, now I don't even need to buy a large format printer.
I know. I have to remind myself to print a test page every week so I don't dry out the cartridge.
Just print out a map every now and then and be like, hey, here's another thing for me to put on my wall.
Yeah. Maybe.
What do we? Oh, the chat appears to be excited about finishing up the Barber of Silvery Moon also. So that's should be good. So any projects or anything else you're working on right now besides Barber of Silvery Moon and the Velkin Weave that you want to plug, or show off your new book or toys that you've recently acquired?
The only thing I'm building a new computer, so that's taking up most of my bandwidth.
Gotcha.
And then keeping the dust off of all of the unpainted minis that I have.
Yeah, that's
Procrastinator there, and a sucker for a discount sale online. So I have many more than I could easily paint.
Yeah, unfortunately, have not spent this time nearly as wisely with the paintbrush as I would have, as I was expecting to have happen in March. I was like, oh, I'm going to paint armies, and it's like, I got halfway through and put the brush down and sat on the couch. So
yeah, looking forward to tomorrow's game, and then getting back in a week to the Velkin Weave, and seeing what we're going to do there.
Yeah, that's Velkin Weave. It's getting interesting. I'm very excited to see where you guys are going next.
Yeah, I mean the Fey market's behind us, and it sounds like we're getting called up into our one of our 5 days of duty that we signed on for with the Hall. So
yeah, that promises to be good.
I think I know where we're going out of character, but don't know in character.
Okay, well, yeah, just, as long as you can keep that surprise on, so that the character doesn't ruin it for everybody else. But you seem like an experienced enough role player to be able to not metagame and spoil everything.
I try to partition the best I can.
Excellent. All right. So I'm not seeing any other pressing matters in the chat out there. So I think that's probably a decent enough place to be wrapping it up. So thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you so much to Josh and of course Rob for being here for the first half. I had a great evening sitting here and listening to all of your various backstory and history about writing and playing. So if you guys want to check us out, we have a Discord. Let me grab that link for you. So come in between any of our streams, or even during the streams, you can come hang out on our Discord there. Talk to the cast and crew, talk to other gamers, just talk about random things, talk about RPGs, whatever it is you want to talk about. We have a bunch of different channels there. We'd love to talk to you. Otherwise, as I mentioned a couple times, tomorrow is going to be the conclusion of the Barber of Silvery Moon. That's going to be Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Oh yeah, on the Discord we are also running games. We have, I could probably about half a dozen games now. That sounds about right. Going at various times that aren't directly coming up on stream. So there's always something going on there. If you're looking to play, you can either say you're running or you're looking for a DM, and we'll find you one. Or someone will volunteer and be like, hey, yeah, we got this, or we know projects that are spinning up. We also do a lot of Jackbox games. Yeah, I think that was Sunday night. We had an evening to kill, so everybody got on the internet and just did Jackbox, actually, a mobile game that you can play on the TV. It's a fun time. Otherwise, tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, we have the conclusion of Barber Silvery Moon. On Thursday, we have another Whiskey, Magic, and Destruction episode. And then rounding, I believe we actually have the heist starting up. Is it this weekend or next weekend? People in the chat. I did not ask for the correct plugs on this, but there's an all rogue heist that's coming up. Heist. But when?
To be determined.
Yeah. So we will broadcast on all of our social media. You can find us on Twitter and Instagram at The Games Tavern, Facebook The Games Tavern. We also have a Patreon for The Games Tavern. Here we go. So Saturday is when the heist is going to be happening. What time is that heist going off?
The authorities would like to know.
Yes. I'm, just tell me Saturday is a helpful time. Otherwise, check us out on our social media. It's going to be happening Saturday afternoon. All right. Hit us up on the Discord. We'll let you know when it goes live, and we'll definitely post some stuff up there. It'll be on the Twitter about when we are going to be doing stuff. And otherwise, we look forward to seeing you guys in the chat and on the Discord. So thank you again so much for tuning in, and we will see you guys next time. Have a good night.